All right. Hello.
Hi
Hello and
there.
welcome to hello and welcome to XI Café. This is the pilot, the Experience Improvement Podcast brought to you by InMoment. My name's Simon Benz. I'm Sales Director of BFSI here at InMoment. And today we are talking to Eslam Afifi, who is CX Insight and Service Design Lead at legalsuper, about how legalsuper have become a CX-focused, data-driven organization. Hello and welcome, Eslam.
Hi,
How you
Simon.
doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited too. Excited to have you. Before we kick into it, for all of those that are listening, we've got the ability to take questions, but for the flow of those that aren't listening, maybe we will wait till the end and have a look at the questions. So feel free to ask questions as you go. And if we've got time at the end, we'll get to them. If not, we'll respond afterwards. But to kick it off, the big question, actually, this is an easy starter. Why don't you tell us about legalsuper and then your role within the organization?
Right. So legalsuper is the only superannuation fund for the legal community within Australia. Its aim and its purpose, solely purpose, is to provide great outcomes, retirement outcomes for our members. And what I do over there, I take care of the CX insights and the service design area that covers, I would say, 4 to 5. Just FYI, the organization itself is just under 100 people, which is a great thing. It means that you actually get to wear multiple hats sometimes. Fun, but sometimes too much fun, as we can say. So that covers about 4 to 5 areas. The first area is data, insights and research. The second area is service design, continuous improvement. The third area is change management. And that sits underneath what we call member experience. And that's why we take care of everything to do with members, all the way online or offline as well.
Awesome. How long have you been with legalsuper now?
Wow. Just past my first year, and it feels longer, to be honest with you. It feels way longer, but it's been about 14 months, I'd say. So
okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It feels longer.
I don't know what to say. You can have to ask them then.
So tell us about the CX setup when you joined the organization and some of the key challenges that legalsuper were facing when you walked into it.
So the first thing I just need to highlight is my background is mainly in consultancy, and I've been on the client side only just 2 times before I joined legalsuper. And mainly I worked in a large organization. So my first perception was when you go to a small organization, it's going to be a piece of cake. That's the first thing I thought. That's the first thing I had in mind. Because we're a small organization, from a data perspective, is going to be very easy access to data. That's number one. That wasn't the case. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that more. The second thing is to do with the CX state. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was in what I call a comfortable zone. It was ticking a box more or less. But we needed, as a small fund, to make sure that we actually had to use data, how to be more customer-centric in every approach that we do, to move forward, to become more of a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Because we are a small fund, we know our members really well, but members changed. And that comes to the last and the most important impact, has to do with COVID. After COVID, everyone changed, all consumers and members changed. And the reason for that is expectations are high. That's number one. Number two is they right now compared to really, really high benchmarking for other experiences that they have. Even if you're a super fund, they're still going to compare you to your bank app, for example, or the online experience that they have with their bank, or even in the in-store. Sometimes when they have an engagement through the phone or through one of our advisors. So that's kind of changed everything. So this is the 3 biggest challenges that we have: data silos. Number 2 is the state of the CX. Number 3, the impact of COVID.
Was something driving your appointment? So was there something that was driving legalsuper to kind of bring you in to start this process off?
Yeah, I have to say that the great leadership that we have with Kerry Norman, who our CMO, and Monique Bate, who is the head of customer experience, engagement, and partnership. Both of them had a great vision that we need to have a new team and build a new team from scratch. And they did an amazing job in transformation for the last, I would say, 2 years to bring the entire thing. And what they also did in an amazing way, they got the buy-in from the business, because that's a very important, as you know, from a CX perspective. When you do any initiative, you need to have that buy-in comes from the top. that top-bottom approach works really well when you have that buy-in.
And was there any kind of economic pillars such as churn reduction, reduction in cost to serve that you were kind of metric tied to?
Everything that we do is actually tied to an ROI metric that to do with our business plan. So that's the reason why the entire team exists in a nutshell. Basically, we have about 4 or 3 pillars in our business objectives in our plan. Now, our new one, each initiative, some way, somehow tied to at least one of those pillars to achieve an ROI from either a growth perspective or a retention perspective.
Right. Yeah. And when you and going back 14 months when you joined, you kind of went through the three challenges that were there, and you've been given the job of transforming the CX function. What did you initially understand to be the hardest part of what you're about to embark on?
The first one is, why do we need change? You need to explain that to other stakeholders, especially when you're working in an environment when things are going well. That's number one. Number two, and no one is complaining yet. That's a very big part too. So everyone is happy. Like, don't make any changes. We are really happy, which is great on the short term. But when you know in the long term what's going to happen, right? People are just going to start to compare your offerings for what something else. What members right now want is a combination of 3 difficult things from a superannuation perspective. Number one is low fees. Number two is high returns. Number 3 is a great experience. We can do that in a great way because we're a small fund. We can move faster. The only challenge that we know, we need to make sure we understand our members really, really well. And that's something that our old segmentation model was extremely way behind what actually our members wants and needs were telling us.
So what was the hard part about understanding them then? So if the key was understanding the members really well, what was so difficult about that?
Yeah, the one thing which is a perception that we always had is because we know that we have a very clear mindset around who our members are, we thought that all of them fit into one category. And that's not true. Okay. Lawyers, even by lawyers, differ. I'll give you a small example that might surprise you. For lawyers, it's very normal to find lawyers at the age of 30 or early 40 retired. And that's something that we didn't know till research revealed that. And they're really, and actually, by the way, they are happily retired. You know? Yeah. And that's fine. And they decided to do something else beside, or have their own practice, or do something beside their dream. And that's something very normal to have. That's something that we haven't captured before. And it was very important that the new segmentation model captured those kind of elements in the life stage of the member.
Okay. So I guess the hard part of understanding it, if I kind of dumb it down, was understanding or leveraging the data you had existing on each of the members to try and figure out who.
Yeah, if you think of any segmentation model, the old segmentation model, the way they work, they only rely heavily on, I would say, basic demographics, and you crunch numbers along some what we call operational data. But what we needed to do is, we needed to actually understand, put all our data together and have like a 360 view on that data, and trying to have behavioral, attitudinal, and other types of data alongside the existing data, trying to see and have a better of a great lens for what members' wants and needs are, and how do we actually tackle that in a much more kind of, I would say, advanced way, rather than the basic segmentation that we had before.
Okay. So before we this is the bit that's I think everyone wants to hear, and kind of getting into it. Before we dive into that, was there, when you're thinking about how moving the CX program to the next level and the challenges that you had when you first walked in, was there an aha moment that kind of made your life easy, or when it suddenly all became completely clear on where to go and how to do it?
Actually, 3 moments. I'm gonna go through them very quickly.
Okay.
So, the first one, it actually came from Monique Bay, who was the head of customer experience and engagement. And what she had an idea is, we need to understand where we are right now. So the first thing that we did what we call gap analysis in a very simple way, which is trying to understand where we want to be in, let's say, 3 versus 5 years time versus what we are right now, and trying to understand how big is that gap. That kind of give us a really clear view. What do we need to implement? That was the first thing. The second thing is, one of the members actually during one of the research did something that was great, and the verbatims from the end moment that we received was actually the same. Members always ask us in a very blunt way, what's in it for me? We ask about, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z, we're doing all these initiatives, but you always come back, how does that serve my personal needs around my super and around my life stage? And that was very important. The third and the last one, when we had to look at all, because we are a small fund, we rely heavily on our service providers. We need to change the perspective that we actually, from a service provider, we needed were more partners. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to tell you that, but I'm happy to share this. We actually, one of the briefs that I had was to review all the existing partnership, and one of them was, service providers, and one of them was in Moment. And I told the team, Plant, I'm been tasked to sack you guys in 6 months. I need to see value ASAP, basically. But however, that actually changed the conversation completely, because the conversation went from let's do transactional, let's get surveys, let's get everything that we do has to have value to the business. So once we walked through what was the business problem that we had, what we're trying from a CX perspective, what was legalsuper trying to achieve, it became very clear for a Moment team, how can they actually support that vision to get us there? And that's what we need from our partners. We don't need a service provider who just do A, B, and C and take a checklist and go away. What we would need actually is a true partner who get us where we want to be.
Okay. I didn't know what you were doing there.
I'm too honest. I'm too honest. Yeah.
Was there like a sort of standout meeting or something that happened that kind of
yes
flipped it on its head?
Yeah, absolutely. So Siobhan, Kiri, and Krishma had a great idea when I told them that, because they were surprised my reaction, my comment there when I said it to them. I said it the same way. They said we have this great what we call 10 steps workshop, and it's kind of a strategy alignment workshop, basically. And it was great. And that was the moment that I think the team exactly understood what we were trying to do.
That's when I got Kiri in, right?
Yeah, so that was Kiri, Karishma, and Siobhan.
Just for the listeners, they're all in Moment employees. So they're probably not all on first name terms with Siobhan and Kiri and Karishma. Yeah, okay.
So and I think that was from that was a turning moment. And we applied the same approach, which was a great learning for us, was all our service providers. Because again, I'm sure you're already aware that when in super world, most funds have to rely heavily on administrator, data providers, and other service providers as well.
It's a increasingly difficult environment to work in. I think superannuation, and it is the pressures seem to double every year. So
however, we don't use the word difficult or challenge. We call it fun. It's just so much fun. We just have to enjoy it. That's a rule that we have in the office right now.
Well, so once you'd got that behind you, once you understood, right, like we need to identify the business problem, the end goal, and then everyone had clarity on what you're trying to achieve as a business, how did you go about breaking down the data silos that were the difficulty in getting there? So clarity on the goal in front of you, data silos, how did you, including those that come from working with an administrator?
It's a second aha moment that we refer to, we learn from our members. When the members were asking us what's in it for us, we actually applied the same principle to our stakeholders. So that we moved away from that approach. We're going to go to one fit, one solution approach. We're going to give a lot of data in one place. People can go and find all of that. We stepped away from that. And what we did actually in a very basic way, we decided to go as a new strategy. We treated data as more of a product. Think of it as if you need data, you're a customer, you need wants, you have needs, you have wants, how you can use the data. And that's what we did exactly. Let me give you a very simple example. So with VOC, we have a lot of data that comes in. And instead of giving all that crunch data in one place, once we have a program coming, once we have a new initiative coming, we go into the VOC and we actually capitalize on the data that exists on and the verbatim exists there only in relation to that project, to that initiative. Once we start to do that, stakeholders start to see, all right, there's actually a lot of value for me here to see what other data. Not only that, they actually start to see, I'm actually happy to share my data as well. Here you go, have a look. What I can do is I can give you more data to complete the picture of what you provided me. It's all about trying to understand the needs of each department and tailor the needs for them. It's all about value. How do I show that what we are doing? Because CX at the end of the day is not only about members, it's also about employers. It's also about how to make a seamless experience for different departments working with the CX. Because most of our work across any CX initiative is cross-functional by nature. So and always is going to be at the beginning resistance, because people think, there's going to be a lot of work for me. I have to do X, Y, and Z. But the moment you walk them through the journey, the one moment you try to tell them what's the value in it for them, that makes it easier. That's the first thing we did. Second thing that we did, we created what we call the R&D studio, the research and the design studio. And basically what we wanted people to have is a place where they can go and make requests. Hey guys, we would love to share some findings that we have. And we take those findings, we clear for them, we make it easier for them, and we give them some insights on it. That made life so much easier. The third and the most important one is two things. First, we have to speak the same language. We removed any jargon, any CX jargon that for you and I, maybe it looks, I know what I'm talking about. I know what a blueprint is. I know what a journey mapping is, but we have removed any of that. And we just made sure it's a very simple, easy language to learn. But also what we did, we agreed never ever send one massive report. Step away from that. That's a killer. No one wants to read 20, 40, 60 pages of reports. It has to be there. Don't get me wrong. It has to be there, right? We actually made it into 3 levels. So we have the full report. If you want to read that, you can read that. We have also an executive summary of maximum 4 pages, and we have 1 summary page. If you want to read exactly the key findings, that's what you have. And since we did that, the appetite has been amazing, because people now can actually tailor. I need only one information. I can go into the short one. If I need more detailed, I have the full detailed report or somewhere in the middle.
Okay. So it sounds like it sounds like an infinity loop. Kind of, in order to get access to data from the departments, you had to create the reporting and the insights that were most important to them, which led to more data, which did.
Exactly. That's exactly what we did, because it's kind of nature of life, right? If you give someone, if you show a value of something, people would like to have it. But if you don't show them any value, the first things they're going to do is like, why am I doing this? What's in it for me? It's always that question. It goes back to that basics of what's in it for me. Either as a member or as a stakeholder.
Putting myself in the shoes of some of the listeners, viewers, I don't know what we call them, but the people that are listening to us talk, I can imagine that some people might be thinking, well, that sounds like a lot of work to go through the stakeholders and try and personalize them. And if I asked them what they wanted, maybe they might ask for the most obscure, random. So how did you go through the process of actually understanding and managing it as well, in terms of
let's agree to one thing. Our job as CX, and especially as the designers, all right, is to take an abstract request and make it into something that people can use, right? So if I come to you, usually, hey, I would love to have X, Y, and Z on a dashboard, or I would love to have a report on that. I have all these things, but I have no idea how actually they look like, right? And that's our job as designers, is to take the abstract idea and to give you in a shape that you actually can use. That's number one. Number two is, you already know, it depends on again, this is going back to that category of data as a product. Usually you will have 4 to 5 categories. Either is it digital reporting, or is it ops, is it experience? So you would have what we call, I wouldn't call it template, but we would have an idea for each category about the key metrics that people are important to. The third layer, we use Agile along the way. So we already have determined, so we have a session, we have a scoping before going to a sprint. We tell this is what we might look like. How do you feel about that? And we just make sure that before we go into that, and before we go into the design and the work and crunching the numbers, we actually have very clear brief around that. But once you do that, that's how you get the buy-in. And they actually not only get the buy-in, they actually help you out throughout the way. And that's how it becomes more of a partnership.
Was there any major pushback across the business, or
I have to say,
any learnings?
I have to say, under the leadership of Monique and Carrie, it's been an amazing experience so far to getting us from the top. I think the only push that anybody going to face in any organization is a natural human push. When you see a change, you're like, why are you doing a change? Because there's always that kind of stereotype. Oh, there's a new guy come in, he's going to try new things, he's going to make us do extra work. It's always, it doesn't matter which field, which company, it's always there. And I think that's a natural thing. But once you walk them, take them with you through that transformation journey makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not a big believer of just show them the outcome product now. I'm a big believer. Make them go to the journey with you. You might have to do a little bit extra work than that, but I promise you, we'll get you there.
Okay. So, okay, I understand. Is there any kind of immediate takeaway and tips for other organizations that are about to embark on the same journey that you could leave us with in terms of communicating the program, and maybe as you're starting to get these insights from the additional data sources coming through, distributing it across the business so they take action on it?
Yeah, I would say it depends which part are you in. If you're at the start or middle or the end. So if you start at the start, I would say number one is I have this belief in what we call addictive to the process. You remain addicted to the process. It's just you're gonna get some time. There's gonna be always a pushback. It's very natural. It's not to do with you, nothing to do with the work. It's just people don't like. Sometimes are resistant to change. Always happens. That's number one. Just buy it some time. That's number one. Number two is step away from one solution fits all. It doesn't work anymore. Where if you read in HBR, if you listen to any podcast around data, that one solution fits all, that doesn't work anymore. We need, as much as we need tailored experience for every segment for our members, we also need tailored services and tailored data for each department. The last one I have to say I've seen an amazing value of is the use of machine learning. We embarked on that quite recently, about only 7 months ago. And we did then a segmentation. Our segmentation is based on machine learning, and it's been an amazing experience. And the value that we have seen, the business has seen, not only saved us a lot of money, but also gives us an amazing opportunity from a growth or a retention perspective and how to actually engage with our members. We understand them, and it's an ongoing basis, and it's just been an amazing experience. So I would say definitely invest time and money, of course, and efforts into machine learning. That's something that I'm really big believer in.
How many customer segments do you have?
5.
Member segments now? 5.
Very clear ones across the life stage, and all of them are defined. And once we define them, now this is why we have the algorithm. Right now, we don't have to every new batch of members joining. We don't have to go and make any changes. It just automatically allocate them accordingly to what's it for that we have.
And do they have? I'm assuming, do you have not personalized, but do you have bespoke communications and journeys based on the segmentation?
Exactly. So everything right now that we have done, every piece from a communication perspective, from a service design perspective, and from a journey map perspective, is actually tailored on these 5 segments, and that gives us an amazing advantage in the marketplace. Because not only we know what are the touch points that members are going to go through, not only that we cover them by the VOC was a moment, but now we are very proactive engaging with them, all of them, and that we can see a massive uplift in really key primary metrics across the journey. Makes
me want to be a lawyer, Eslam, so I can come across you guys.
I don't think so.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to retire before doing.
It's a bit late for that.
So what's next? So it sounds like you've done some good stuff. Well, it sounds like you've done some excellent stuff. I know you have. Are you done now? Is that it?
No. We're just starting. We are just starting. All of what we have been doing for, I would say, 9-10 months was all about discovering. So at the gap analysis that we have completed, that gives us a great review for what we did. What we did is a capability mapping review. We reviewed the entire business, from systems, from blueprints, from journeys. We mapped everything, so we know exactly to identify the gaps right now. And the first thing we're trying to do what we call low-hanging fruits, trying to see the easy, quick wins that we can actually. How can we have an uplift? For example, a moment is a massive example from that, because that's uplift has been great for us. That's not one. Second thing is we're trying to invest heavily in technology. So the first thing that we did, we actually moved to a new portal, which was great because members were really happy with our new member portal. The data, the feedback that we got from VOC or from other channels digitally as well, we have been able to capitalize on that by having a new portal. The third one is what I referred to earlier, machine learning. And we're not only applying that segmentation, we're applying on I would say 4 or 5 solutions coming up forward. So we're relying heavily more on data scientists right now. We would love to capitalize on that. What we would love to do is bring both experience data alongside operational data and trying to predict modeling as well to see how can we do and how can capitalize from a retention or a growth perspective as well. Yeah, so I would say we're not even close to the midway yet, to be honest.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's like I guess and from what I can see, it's becoming a continuous improvement system of action, right? Where the results are feeding into the future state.
It never stopped. The continuous improvement model that we have in place, it's all built around reviews and review. So get the data, get the feedback that we get from the different channels that we have, and build that into every experience. So we're measuring every touch point right now. We went from basic 4 touch points from our VOC perspective to 14 this year. So which means we have 14 experiences that we are measuring. So each of them feeds back to the experience owner who's responsible for that, and then gets the feedback and becomes improvement from a quarter to quarter. So that's why when you say to me, how far are you in the journey? I don't think I'm even halfway through, Simon, to be honest. I would love to be there, but I think we still have a lot of work to be there. But I think we are on the right track. It's just you have, again, those challenges, which we call them fun. I think we're having so much fun at the moment. So that's great.
It's fun.
That's a word, fun. Absolutely.
Well, the biggest bit of feedback I think I'm going to give about these podcasts is that half an hour is probably not long enough, because we've touched the surface of quite a lot of things I can imagine we could be double clicking on, especially the segmentation modeling. That is super exciting. We've got 3 minutes to go. We've had some questions come through. Are you happy if we throw a question?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, at random. Do you see key commonalities between customer experience and change management? I think, to be honest, you may have answered that a little bit.
Yeah,
already.
but that's massive. That's a massive component. So last year, Kerry and Monique have sent me, and then hopefully other members of the team to do a precise change management, just to to be certified in change management, because every piece that we do has to come with a change management to it. For example, the example I gave when we changed from the old portal to the new member portal, that has to have the massive change management plan. You can't just expect switch on and switch off. It doesn't work like that. And definitely, it's a massive element, and it's a really important component.
Okay, and I guess you're quite lucky in that you've got service design, change management, and data and insights all sitting in the same group. So you can discover, analyze, and change all in one go.
Yeah, which is great.
That's not something I hear too often, though. So you've all literally been trained on effective change management, so that any initiatives have to follow a process of embedding and communication and everything.
And again, that kind of setup, I have to give credit to Carrie and Monique, who did that setup in a way, because they believe that's a way. That belief in change management comes from the two of them as well, that every piece has to have tied to the plan. Okay.
Well, we're out of time. Eslam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and having such an awesome conversation on your journey at legalsuper. Thank you to the guests, that's what we're calling people, for listening to the XI Café podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for more episodes like this in the future. Any questions that have come through, we'll try and answer afterwards. Awesome stuff, Eslam.
Thank you, Simon.
See you on the other side.
See you on the other side. Thank you.